Good evening, everyone. Hold on just a second. Thank you, sis, for reminding me that I was doing the AA meeting tonight. I completely spaced it. Been a long day today. Wrong one. Give me a minute, guys. I'll get this set up over here. Go here. Go live. Yeah, so I completely forgot that I was doing a meeting today. But I'm saying I'm an alcoholic. So there's a reason why we don't have set schedules for these things, because anything can come up. Anyways, without my sister, I probably would not be live right now. Let's wait a couple minutes and let people come in. I found a new snack that the dog likes. No more. Nope. Dad has some. You're like, I want yours, Mom. Whatever you're eating, Mom. Welcome. All right, let's get this going. So if you're in the chat or the comments, please be mindful of each other. Not everybody that comes here is a recovering alcoholic or an alcoholic, period. So please don't be judging each other. But anyway, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you for sharing out. One, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our own. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. I don't know why. Anyway. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve this contact. Let me restart that one. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Love you too, Tony. And 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Today is the 14th. But it's not May. Or yeah, it is May. Oh, it says the 19th. No. Today's the 14th, and today I probably put it on for... So in 4 days is Monday, and not, right?
15, 16, 17. So 15, 16, 17. No, it's Tuesday.
Oh, that's Tuesday, Tony. So yes, I will be live in 4 days at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, wait a minute. 4 days. Is the 18th?
No, the 19th.
That's 5 days.
All right, so we are reading the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am in the 4th edition. So if you are in a different edition, you're probably going to be on a different page, but no worries. I put the name and everything in the description. Under the video, it says more. If you click on the more, it'll bring up the title and the name and all of that stuff. And I'm going to read it anyway. So this one is empty on the inside on page 512, 512. Empty on the inside. She grew up around AA and had all the answers except when it came to her own life. I spent my life acting as if I knew. I didn't ask teachers questions in school. They might find out I didn't know the answer, or acting as if I didn't care. I always felt as though everyone else had been given the directions to life, and I had been somehow or somewhere else when God was handing them out. To me, you either knew how to do something or you didn't. You could play the piano or you couldn't. You were a good ball player or you weren't. I don't know where I learned the attitude that it wasn't all right not to know, but it was a certainty in my life, and it almost offed me. The concept of set a goal, work for the goal, achieve the goal was foreign to me. You either had it or you didn't. And if you didn't, you couldn't let it on. You might look bad. I never once stopped to consider that others might really have to work hard for what they had. Gradually, my attitude translated into contempt for those who did know. Leave it to an alcoholic to look down on someone who is successful. My father joined Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 7. Many of my childhood Friday nights were spent at open AA meetings because we couldn't afford a babysitter. I was a kid sitting over in the corner with a book. What effect did it have? I knew that being an alcoholic meant you couldn't drink anymore and that you had to go to AA. As my drinking career began, I was always careful not to utter the A word in connection with my name. At my house, I would have been handed a meeting schedule. Besides, I knew that AA was all old guys that drank coffee, smoked, and ate donuts. I had been there. Looking back, I'm sure most of those old guys were barely 30, so no AA for me. That would mean not drinking. And when I drank, life changed. I was 15 the first time I got drunk. I can tell you where I was, who I was with, what I was wearing. It was an important day for me. Within a year, I was a poster child for adolescent treatment of alcoholism. My grades plunged, my friends changed, I wrecked a car, my appearance went downhill, I was suspended from school. When I first got sober, I wondered why my parents never checked me into treatment. Then I remembered they didn't have adolescent treatment centers when I was a teen. As a matter of fact, I still have ceramics Dad made me in the psychiatric ward because when he was drinking, they didn't have treatment centers. I was always ready with a promise to do better, to try harder, to apply myself, to live up to my potential. Potential now there is the curse of every budding alcoholic. I managed to graduate somehow and went on to college, where I promptly flunked out. I couldn't make it to class. Hindsight has shown me two reasons for this. First, I got someone else. If someone else had a free period, I tagged along with them. I thought that I had to be with my friends all the time. I was afraid that if they spent any time without me, they might begin to wonder, why did I hang out with her anyway? They might realize they had a better time without me. And then they might tell other people, who would tell other people, and I'd be alone. Second, social conversation was a skill that I never acquired. When I met someone, I felt totally inadequate. To me, when I said, "Hi, my name is," they followed a deafening silence, as if they were thinking, "So, how did people have conversations anyway? How did they meet and then begin to talk as if they had known each other for years?" For me, it was one more thing, that it wasn't all right not to know. So I kept drinking. When I drank, it didn't matter. It's important to interject here that I loved to drink. Drinking put me into the middle of life. I was a social drinker. Drinking made me extremely social. I didn't particularly like drinking with other women. I drank with the big boys. I always had a tremendous capacity for alcohol, and I learned to shoot an excellent game of pool, which made me quite popular in the local tavern scene. At one point, I even had my own motorcycle. When I read Bill's story in the big book, and he said I had arrived, I knew what he meant. For 14 years, my drinking took me places I never meant to go. First, I moved south since I knew the town I grew up in was my problem. I once heard a guy remark in a meeting that there are 3 or 4 states that should just post signs on their borders. This state doesn't work either. I did the things women do. My first marriage was really a one-night stand that lasted 5 years. I certainly couldn't admit that I had made a mistake. We had 2 children and I wanted out. But to leave would have meant taking responsibility. I just drank until he threw me out. Then it was his fault the marriage failed. At one point, before moving home, I lost a job that meant a lot to me. As the direct result of my drinking, for the first time, I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and said, I am an alcoholic. When I had gone to meetings with my dad, I always just said, I'm with him. I called my father and told him I went to a meeting. Within a week, he mailed me a box containing the book Alcoholics Anonymous, a tape of his AA talk, a couple of meditation books, a copy of 12 Step 12 Traditions, and a few other odds and ends. I think he had been saving up for the day I was willing. So, divorced, I moved back home. Within a year, I was under arrest for child endangerment. I had left my sleeping children home alone and gone to drink. They were removed from my custody and placed with my mother. Then started my rounds of the treatment centers. I could talk a good game. After all, I had grown up with AA. I was the one the counselors asked to talk to other women who were reluctant to leave their kids long enough to go to treatment. I could give the whole speech. We can't be good mothers if we're not sober. The problem was, inside, I was relieved that my kids had to live with my mom. It was too hard to be a parent, but I couldn't tell people that. They might think I was a bad mom. And I was a bad mom. I was a terrible mom. No, I didn't beat them. And of course, I told them I loved them. Come on. When you don't want your pages to stick together, they stick together. But the message my kids got from me was, yes, I love you. Now go away. They had to be practically invisible in their own home. I had absolutely nothing to give them emotionally. All they wanted was my love and attention, and alcoholism robbed me of the ability to give it. I was empty on the inside. While I was in treatment, my dad died, and I inherited almost enough money to off myself. I got to drink the way I wanted to for 2.5 years. I'm sure I got here faster because of it. Near the end, I was living in an attic apartment. The money was long gone. It was November, cold and gray. When I woke up at 5:30, it was gray outside. Was it 5:30 a.m. or 5:30 p.m.? I couldn't tell. I looked out the window watching people. Were they going to work or coming home? I went back to sleep. When I woke up again, it would either be light or dark. Opening my eyes after what seemed like hours, it was only 5:45 and gray. I was 28 years old. I finally got on my knees and asked God for help. I couldn't go on the way I was living. I had been in the apartment since August and hadn't bothered to unpack. I wasn't bathing. I couldn't answer my phone. I couldn't show up on weekends to visit my kids. So I prayed. Something made me go dig through a box, and I found the big book my father had sent me years earlier. I always tell new people to buy the hardcover version. For some reason, they are harder to throw away. I read Bill's story again. I slept holding the book like a teddy bear. I woke up feeling rested for the first time in months, and I didn't want a drink. I would love to tell you that I have been sober ever since, but that is not the case. I didn't want to drink that day, but I took no action to ensure against it. You see, I believe that we get more than one moment of grace from God, but it is up to us to seize the moment by taking action. But I heeded the voice that said, "You may as well drink. You know you're going to." For the next few days, every time I went to my favorite watering hole, I was surrounded by people talking about sobering up. My bartender wanted to quit drinking. The guy I was shooting pool with talked about going back to AA. Someone next to me at the bar was talking about being at the local clubhouse for AAs. I did stop drinking, sort of, for a few months, but eventually went on the bender that would end it all. By the end of 2 weeks of drinking, nobody was speaking to me, so I headed south, where I was sure they all missed me. There was no homecoming parade. People barely remembered me, and by the end of the week, I was out of money. I couldn't even book a plane ticket home. I had less than $1, and I had one of those hangovers. I knew if I tried to sit in the airport bar long enough for someone to buy me a drink, it would be obvious that was my intent. And my pride couldn't bear the thought of being asked to leave. I briefly considered mugging a little old lady and stealing her purse, but I knew I would end up picking on the one who had still who was still in shape. If there had been one more dollar, I might not be sober today. Once I was drinking, I always had a plan, but that day, by the grace of God, I was out of plans. I didn't have one single better idea. I called Mom, told her where I was, and asked her to fly me home. She later told me she almost didn't do it, but she was afraid they'd never see me again. She deposited me at the local detox center where she told me I could go in or not, but that she was done with me. I was on my way on my own. Detox gave me the same message. I thought they should send me on a treatment center. 30 days of hot meals and rest was sounding pretty good to me. But they told me I already knew everything treatment was going to teach me. That I should go do it and save the bed for someone who needed it. I have been sober ever since. I was finally accountable for my own recovery. I was responsible for taking the action. One of my favorite games had always been making it someone else's job to see that I got my work done. That game was over. I had never expected to live to see 30. Suddenly, I was 29 and a half, showing no signs of dying anytime soon. I knew in my heart that I would live whether I drank or not, and that no matter how bad it was, it could always get worse. Some people get sober because they're afraid to die. I knew I would live, and that was far more terrifying. I had surrendered. The first night out of detox, I went to a meeting, and the woman speaking commented that alcoholism had taken her to the point where she didn't want to work and didn't want to care for her daughter. She just wanted to drink. I couldn't believe it. That was me. She became my first sponsor, and I came back. The second night, I sat in what I now call the new guy chair, second row against the wall. If you sit in the back, they know you're new. And if you sit in the front, you might have to talk to someone. When it came time to hold hands and pray at the end of the meeting, I had no hands to hold on one side. I remember thinking, I will never fit in here, and hanging my head. I felt my hand being taken. Someone in front of me had taken the time to be sure that the circle was complete. To this day, I don't know who it was, but that person is the reason I came back the next night. That person saved my life, and I kept coming back. The local clubhouse had a new big book meeting every day, and I went every day. Not to get sober, mind you, and certainly not to learn about what was in the book. Here was my thinking. I knew you were supposed to read your big book every day, and they went around the room reading an entire chapter, so that should count, right? This also took up nearly 30 minutes, so it was less likely that I would get called on to talk. And the meeting was at noon, which left my nights free. I figured out all of that with my keen alcoholic mind. Luckily, I forgot that God is in charge of results. I was finally taking action, and my motives didn't matter. I didn't, er, sorry, I thought I'd go through the big book once, then graduate, to discussion meetings. And there was a lot of laughter in that room, so I kept going. I was not one of those people who walked into meetings and said, "Thank you, God, I'm home." I did not particularly want what they had. I just didn't want what I had anymore. That was the humble beginning I needed. The convenience of the noon meeting meant that I went to 2 meetings every day. I had nothing else to do at night. I began to notice people there with several years of sobriety. My own laziness had thrown me in with some of the most active people in Alcoholics Anonymous. What I found out was that people who attend big book meetings on a regular basis tend to read the book and do what it says. When I was 2 weeks sober, a man's 9-year-old daughter was killed by a drunk driver, and 3 days later he was at a meeting saying he had to believe it wasn't for nothing, that maybe one alcoholic would get sober because of it. As I left that day, I found myself wondering what would have happened if that had been my kids or me. What would they remember about me? A feeling came over me. I now know it was gratitude, and I realized that I could call my children right then and tell them I love them. That I could show up when I said I would. That my words could be worth something to them. That even though I might always just be mom who comes over on the weekends, I could be a good weekend mom. I had a chance to move forward with them, forging a relationship built on a foundation of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, rather than always trying to make up for the past. 1 year later, I was able to share with that man that maybe it hadn't been for nothing because my life changed that day. By the time a month passed, my feet were firmly planted in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I kept coming back. I cannot begin to list all the wonderful things that have happened in my years here. My kids were 4 and 6 when I got sober, and they have grown up in AA. I brought them to open meetings, and the people there gave them what I couldn't in the early days: love and attention. Gradually, they became part of my life again, and today I have custody of my children. I remarried in Alcoholics Anonymous to a man who believes in AA the way I do. I knew we were off to a good start when he didn't get angry that I stood him up to go to a 12-step call. We agreed to never be higher than third on each other's list, with God always first, the Alcoholics Anonymous second. He is my partner and my best friend. We both sponsor several people, and our house is filled with love and laughter. Our telephone never stops ringing. We share the joy of a common solution. We have had some tough times. Our son is a third generation of AA in my family. After a suicide attempt at age 14, we found out he too was an alcoholic. After his 1 year in AA, it's hard to tell what will happen. But we trust Alcoholics Anonymous even on the days we don't trust our son. Our daughter is a beautiful, confident teenager who has found her own path to God without having to drink. She is the product of the love and faith of Alcoholics Anonymous. I still have a sponsor and a home group today. I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous in good standing. I learned how to be a good AA member by watching good AA. Sorry, I skipped some. By watching good AA members and doing what they do. I learned how to have a good marriage by watching people with good marriages and doing what they do. I learned how to be a parent by watching good parents and doing what they do. And I finally have the freedom of believing that it was all right not to know. So I can relate to her story pretty good. I started drinking as a teenager. Hi, Char. So I started drinking as a teenager. I think I was 16 when I actually ventured out and started drinking. I got pregnant and had my oldest son at 17. And my father had taken me and my sister to a few times. And I remember going to that meeting. And so I knew about Alcoholics Anonymous my whole life. Because that's one thing that I never forgot was going to that meeting. I didn't understand what it was at that time, but so the first time I got sober, I did it without AA. I didn't even think about AA when I first got sober for a year, and I went back out and drank like this person. And so when I started AA, I didn't think that it was going to be of any great thing. And because it didn't work for him. Because he was an alcoholic my whole life. Even as an adult, he died still drinking. But when I got sober that first time, I had set myself up. And my sponsor talks about her this way too, and that's why I clicked with her. Is you set yourself up that you're gonna be okay to go out and drink after a year. No, that's not how it works. Not at all how it works. Because you don't start all over like you did the first time you drank. No, you don't gradually work back up to, falling, uh, falling to the bottom. No, you start exactly where you left off at when you got sober. And so when I went to AA for my first meeting, it was because I was meeting a friend that I hadn't seen for many years. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and go so that way I can see my friend that I haven't seen. And Um, I couldn't hear what anybody was saying or anything in that meeting, but I do remember them going around the room and saying their name. I couldn't hear them all, but um, first thing they did was introduce themselves, and then they said, of course, they're an alcoholic. Um, I didn't say my name. My husband did. I was like, I'm not talking at this meeting. Nope, not happening. And it took quite a while. And hi, Gina. I see you over there on the other one I'm on. Just a good friend of mine over there. Anyways, not thinking that anything in that room would click with me. But I did keep talking to my friend. I'm like, so when's the next meeting? And he was like, I have no clue. And so, good night, Char. Have a good night. So I got a list of phone numbers at that first meeting, and I decided that I was going to go ahead and call some people off of that list. And the third person I called answered her phone, and her name's Tony, and she is my sponsor 11 years later, still to this day, and will forever be my sponsor until either of us is not here anymore. But I also had another sponsor as well. She has passed on. But I didn't think that AA would work. So my objective for calling the numbers was to see when I could see my friend again at another meeting. Not that I was going to go and pay attention in the meeting, but I have since been in AA. AA has been a huge part of my life. I thank the people in those rooms and my sponsor and my family and my friends for helping me to stay sober. And always, AA has always been the first thing I do every day is AA. I thank God for another day that I can be sober and that I can be here and be present and not have to drink and make it through a day. I don't set myself up to fall because it is easy to do. I've learned how to do the meetings that I'm doing here just on a whim. I decided to start these meetings after some asking of a friend of mine here on YouTube. What do you think about me starting AA? And so I thank that person, and she knows who she is if she watches the replay. Thank you. But I know now that if I didn't have AA, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I would probably not be on this earth, or I'd be out there drinking somewhere. But I do have these rooms, and I know that they're everywhere, and I know I can get to a meeting anytime I need to. I have a sponsor that I can call always, and she usually answers her phone. And I also have my friends and my family members that I can call anytime, day or night. And I thank AA a lot for my achieving 11 years. And my sister is coming up on her 11. So I'm pretty proud of that. And one of my cousins I helped get sober. She is still sober to this day. I think she's been sober for 4 years. I think it's 4 years. And my friend has been sober for 3. And one of my old coworkers has been sober longer than me, but she still comes to my meetings. But yeah, so AA works. You just have to keep coming. And just remember that you have to be the reason for getting sober. You can't say, I'm going to get sober for so and so. It doesn't work that way. Because I mean, after all, weren't we praying for God to help us stay sober for, for whatever purpose, or give me one more night so I can do whatever, and then the next day you'd go drink again? But AA is non-stop. Have to work your steps. Have to work your steps every day. Morning, noon, and night. And it is completely worth it. And so with that, I hope you guys find these meetings helpful, and that you can know that if you're a newcomer, it works. I don't know how, but it works. You just have to keep coming. Please like and share and comment in the comments if you want. And subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell, because most of my live streams are AA meetings these days. Once I get going fishing again, then I'll be doing some outside live streams at the lake fishing. But just know you're not alone, and there's help absolutely everywhere. You're going to feel like you don't relate, that you don't fit in there, and I can tell you, don't rush the process. It works. And we all have similar stories, and I don't know where I'd be without, my meetings and doing these meetings. But anyways, I love you guys, and thank you for being here. And please reach out if you need help. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Okay. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. Love you.